All right, so I just got back from AFPAC yesterday, and it was probably one of the most white pilling experiences I've ever had, at least so far this year, especially considering how awful things have been this year with the Biden administration and basically officially turning Clown World into the official Hell World, where everything just completely sucks. It was definitely a very white pilling event, filling me with hope for the future and making me realize that America really is not dead. There are still plenty of people that are patriotic, Christian Americans who are worth fighting for. And ultimately, our message and our fight is justified. And as long as there are people like that, it shows that there is a reason to continue fighting. So I'm going to be talking all about that, but after a very awesome weekend, I come home and I am suspended from Twitter after just reaching 1,500 followers, including Nicholas Fuentes, Michelle Malkin, Vincent James, Jaden McNeil, Beardson. All of my favorite e-celebrities were following me, and now that account is seemingly gone. I tried appealing the suspension. We'll see what happens. I doubt that I'm going to win that appeal, but people are saying that it might be some type of glitch, so we're going to see if that's the case. Hopefully, I get it back. But I just got suspended from Instagram permanently after 5.5 years and almost 6,000 followers. And now they're just basically pushing me to the deepest, darkest edges of the internet. And I don't understand why. I am a campus conservative who just loves democracy and liberty, and they just continue to censor me. And it's not right. It really is not right. So, this is going to be a very different video than I usually do. What I usually do is I record myself for about 25 minutes in my car and then I edit it severely and have a bunch of jump cuts because I am extremely self conscious about the way that I talk. People tell me that I'm relatively well spoken, but I feel like I have a lot of verbal crutches. I say and a lot. People tell me that I am very well spoken, but I think it's because I talk to so many people on the internet that are smarter than me. And it's kind of parallel to that. Like they might have a higher verbal IQ than me, so when they talk and they're not stuttering or losing track of what they're talking about, I feel dumb when I do. But then when I talk to normal people, I feel like an absolute genius. So we're going to see how this is going to go. This is just going to be a long form video, not going to have any edits or anything like that. It's going to be kind of like a podcast, I guess. Basically, just discussing and analyzing my experience at AFPAC and reviewing it and talking about what I see for the future of the America First movement. And we'll see how it goes. If I sound like a retard, then this will be the last time I ever do a video like this. Also, because I am just constantly getting suspended from everything, I think the best place that you can find my content, if you like my content, is on Telegram, which is t.me/spexo. So, let's jump into it. Also, I know that this microphone is very clear, at least when I tried the playback, and you might hear me breathing really loudly. I apologize for that, but it was either this or the Yeti. And the Yeti, you hear too much background noise, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Either you hear very like thick breathing, or you hear my computer, which sounds like a fan blowing directly into the microphone. All right, so where are we going to begin? So, I guess it was Thursday. I took a plane from Newark to Orlando, and I don't travel a lot. I don't take planes a lot, but it is a horrible experience. Public transportation in general is probably horrible, but just with this whole pandemic nonsense that's going on, it is absolutely brutal and especially dystopian because you see little kids, like adolescent children, wearing masks, and it's just very odd. Great, that's what I needed right now. And the mask rules and mandates in the airport and on an airplane are so arbitrary and nonsensical, it makes absolutely no sense. Besides the airport in general being congested and overcrowded with people who are just selfish and disgusting and obnoxious and loud, now you have these ridiculous mask mandates and rules where they're telling you that you need to social distance and you need to have your mask on at all times. Except when you're on the plane, you can sit right next to each other, and you can take your mask off when you're actively eating or drinking, and you don't need a mask if you're under 2 years old. So apparently, the virus knows when it can and can't be transmitted. I just saw my dog. Okay, great. It's awesome. This is very professional, high production quality video right here. So, anyway, so that was my airport experience. Really made me hate the general public even more so than I already do. Then I get to the airport in Orlando, and I meet up with Kyle Frank and Canada First host Tyler Russell. Very cool people. Then I meet up with JB for the first time in real life. He's the guy that I always do videos with, and this was something that I noticed the entire trip was that every time I was meeting these people that were America First people, it felt like I was meeting people that I knew forever, even if I never met them before. Like obviously, I talked to Kyle Frank and JB and all these other people constantly online, but everybody else too that I never even met before, never talked to before, who support America First. When I met them, it's like meeting people that you have known forever, where you can just talk and be yourself, and it's really special because we talk a certain way on the internet. We use certain slang and certain lingo. We are aware of certain relevant facts that most normal people aren't. And you can't talk the way that you talk on the internet with your internet friends. You can't talk that way to normal people. They'll look at you like you're insane. And it just felt really refreshing to just meet a bunch of people who are on the same wavelength as you and be able to talk the way you naturally want to talk and not have to bite your tongue, not have to over explain things when you make ironic jokes, or like it's like everybody was in on the same inside jokes apparently. And not jokes, I'm just using that kind of analogously, I guess, but I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it really just felt like such a such a relationship was already founded, even though we've never met before. So the first thing we tried to do was get into CPAC, and it was way high security the first day. For some reason, they wouldn't let us get past. We told them that we were going to go register, so we tried to get to the registration desk and then just sneak into where all the booths were. They weren't having it. They weren't letting us go in there or whatever. So then we went out to eat. Me, Canada First guy, JB, this other guy who I don't think he wants me to say his name, and Kyle Frank. And we were meeting up with people, and all throughout the event, even at AFPAC and before AFPAC, just walking around, stuff like that. I was with Grant's Rand. Somebody noticed him that wasn't even going to AFPAC, which was really, really cool. I got noticed like at least a dozen times from people who either know me from Twitter or Instagram, or my, especially my Helen Keller video. That seems to be where I'm known for the most nowadays, which is pretty funny. But it was really cool. It was like I was like a D-list celebrity or something. Like people noticed me and would come up to me and ask for my picture and stuff like that, which was really cool. Um, there was this guy that I met who had what I assumed to be cauliflower ear. So that is the bumpy, or like the messed up ear you get from like fighting or boxing or wrestling. Like you see a lot of UFC guys have this ear that looks like sometimes they have to get it drained. My wife's brother is into jujitsu and he does all these tournaments and stuff, and he gets cauliflower ear and he has to get it drained. It's absolutely disgusting. So I see this guy with what I thought were those ears, and I'm like, oh, hey, you're a fighter? And he's like, no, why? I'm like, oh, you have like the fucked up cauliflower ear. And he's like, no, these are just my ears. So I kind of felt really bad. I was like, oh, he just has fucked up ears. Then we ended up going to some bar or whatever, and I met Flat Earth Boxer. And this guy I know is a very controversial figure among America First people, but he was actually a very nice guy. He's super eccentric, and I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what he says, but he is very intelligent. He is very high IQ. He has so many Bible verses memorized, and I think he has a lot of information that isn't correct, but he's able to, I guess, I don't think regurgitate is the right word, but he's able to, um, I guess, just talk about these things with all the relevant facts that are needed to be discussed at will, meaning that he doesn't need to like look up stuff. He just like he knows Bible verses like the back of his hand and stuff. And we had very interesting conversation. He's a very nice guy, and he's not doing this just for like clout or to get money or whatever. He's literally like dedicated his life to this stuff. He's very passionate about it. So whether you agree with him or not, he truly believes in what he's saying and what he's doing, and he is basically he thinks that he's um, doing God's will, basically. And I respect that. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he says, but I do respect what he's saying. And I asked him, I was like, "Are you part of AF, or do you support us? Like, what are you doing?" Because I noticed that he um, change his profile picture, and a lot of people were changing their profile picture to this like filter with bats in the background and stuff like that. And that was basically, it started out to like separate yourself from America First with to align yourself with like Puma and what's that guy's name, Biggie Slunk or something like that. So he did that, and I asked him about it. He was like, no, he was like, I'm doing my own thing, but I don't have any ideological differences with America First. You know, he likes Nick or whatever. So I respect that he's doing his own thing. He's not trying to like attach himself to America First and use the movement for clout, I guess. He's actually very passionate about what he's doing himself. He just feels like, I guess, America First is a good place to talk with open-minded people for him to spread his message, I guess. What else? Then the next day, we ended up going to the hotel where CPAC was, and we met up with Jaden McNeil and Beardson, and we actually got to sneak in to CPAC, which was absolutely insane. First, we were walking through the lobby and we saw Matt Gates, and I took a picture with him, and JB asked him if he knew who Nicholas Fuentes was. He totally avoided the question. Then we just, like, literally, we went through the security, or not even the security, like the checkpoint where they take your temperature of stuff, of CPAC. We told them that we needed to register, and we did what we tried to do the first day, but it worked the second day, I guess, because there were so many people that they weren't really able to keep an eye on people, and we actually snuck into where all the booths were. And we saw Tommy Laron and Dan Bongino and stuff, and I posted that video, and we were just walking around and stuff, and then we stopped, and this Jaden McNeil asked who the guy that what's her name, Tommy Laron, was speaking to on her show, and this boomer came up and was on some type of drugs, or he was drunk or something, and he came up to Jaden McNeil and he was like very loud and obnoxious, and he was like, oh, I'm a coke dealer from Miami. And then somebody was wearing a Jaden Gang t-shirt in our group, and he was like, oh, are you QAnon? And we were like, yeah, that's QAnon. And he was like, oh, but he looks like a lowercase q, ha 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 ha. And he was just being super loud and bringing attention to us. And then the security finally came over, and I think he recognized Jaden McNeil, and he asked for his credentials. Obviously, we didn't have any because we snuck into the event. And then he got like 2 security guards to come and escort us all out. And so it was pretty cool. And then we saw some guy outside holding like God is coming thing. We started chanting Christ is King. And it was a very funny experience. CPAC is really lame and gay, by the way. CPAC is really corny. Obviously, we can go into like the hypocrisy of being called Uncancel America, and then they canceled that like black Israelite young Pharaoh guy or whatever. And but CPAC is just, there's no energy in it. It's all like boomer people. It's all people who are just like, I don't know, establishment shills, I guess. And there's no energy, there's no passion behind it compared to AFPAC, which I'll get into in a couple of seconds. But we then left, we went to eat, and then what did we do? We got dressed in our suits to prepare for AFPAC, and then we got the email telling us where the AFPAC hotel was going to be, and we got there, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was very close to the Hyatt, which is where CPAC was. I'm pretty sure that it is now known where AFPAC was taking place, but I'm not going to say it just in case. I'm sure I could still talk about other stuff considering there were so many people there, and I'm sure other people have been talking about it and it's gotten out there. So, but I don't want to purposely do it just in case. So, and actually, to be honest, I don't even remember what the hotel was called, but we went to the AFPAC hotel. It was absolutely beautiful, and it's really, I was very impressed and shocked with how they were allowed to pull this off. And I'm guessing that they had other venues on the back burner just in case this one canceled. And I feel like they're going to get a lot of pushback for hosting our events. But I'm guessing that they were well informed of the pushback that they would receive beforehand. But I guess we're going to have to see in the coming days and weeks and stuff. And that actually is parallel with what I wanted to talk about with GOSAR, but I'll talk about that in a little while. So we go in there and we meet with Vincent James outside of the AFPAC Hotel and Beardson. And then we go in, and the people just for the reception, because there was the reception and then general admission. So people waiting for the reception were probably at least 200 people, maybe even more. And the people that went to the main event was well over 500 people. This place was absolutely packed. And then we waited online, and we had to get scanned with the metal detector thing. And then we got to go in. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. So I'm waiting online. Actually, before the line even started, I'm inside the hotel with Kyle Frank, and Steve King comes in there. I get to shake his hand. I took a picture with him, and then Nick Fuentes comes in, right, and I shake his hand, and then I videotaped him meeting Steve King for the first time. So that was the first time they actually ever met, and he goes up to me and he tells him what an honor it is for him to be part of this event, and I thought that was really cool that I was able to get that on film, their first ever interaction in person. Then we go in. I meet Nick, shake his hand, and I told him, he knew who I was because he follows me on Twitter, or did before I was suspended. And I said, "This is absolutely amazing. Congratulations for everything you have accomplished. I'm really grateful that you have done everything you've done." And he was like, "Yeah, man, absolutely." He was like, "I hope I get to talk to you later. I'll see you after the speeches and stuff like that." So that was really cool. Then we go down the escalators, and there is like this documentary crew interviewing um, Vincent James, John Miller, and Beardson, and one of the producers comes up to me and notices me from Instagram and Twitter, and he's like from the BBC or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, you Spexo? I've seen you on Twitter. You did the Helen Keller video." I was like, "Oh yeah, what's up, man? That's me." And he was like, "Do you know who this is?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh, this is Louis Theroux or something like that." And the name sounded familiar, and I looked him up, and I actually know who he was because I watched his documentary on the Westboro Baptist Church and some other things. I thought he was the guy that was eating the brains. For when he met with the cannibals in like Africa or something like that, but it's a totally different guy. This is Louis Theroux. He did a documentary on the Westboro Baptist Church. He's done a lot of other documentaries. He's super famous. He works for the BBC, but he is very independently successful, and I'm pretty sure he's the most famous documentarian in the United Kingdom. So they were telling me that they've been shooting this documentary for like over a year or something for Nick Fuentes, and at first I was like, why would Nick let this guy film him and stuff like that? But apparently they're under a strict contract. And honestly, if Nick is trusting them to do it, then whatever, I trust them. I'm guessing that they've talked about it. I'm guessing that Nick has learned his lesson since the MTV thing. There's my other dog. Great. All right, he wants to be in the video, I guess. And I'm guessing that he knows what he's doing. I'm not going to doubt Nick, but the guy pulled me to the side and wanted me to interview, and they interviewed me for like 40 minutes. I was interviewed by Louis Theroux. Look up who that is. He is extremely famous in the United Kingdom. Louis Theroux interviewed me for like 40 minutes, and I think I gave very optical answers. Like he asked me, he said, "People think that Nick Fuentes is an extremist. Do you think that he's an extremist?" And I said, "No, what we want is completely natural. What we want is what everybody wanted for all of human history for over 2,000 years, more than that, up until 60 years ago. I think we've been told that everything that we find natural and all of our gut instincts has been pathologized, and we're made to believe that something's wrong with us for wanting a Christian nation, for wanting to preserve our tradition, our culture. I don't think anything's wrong with that. I think that's actually completely natural. I think what's extreme is drag queen story hour. I think what's extreme is chemically castrating our children. I think what's extreme is having every single character on every single Netflix show be gay and transgendered people when that doesn't represent accurately what America is about." And then he was like, "What do you say?" Oh, he asked me about Nick's Holocaust denial, and I said, "What are you talking about? The joke that he made on about cookies when he was being ironic?" And he was like, "Well, it seemed like he was using irony to try and get people to actually believe that the Holocaust didn't happen." And I said, "Whether or not um, it did or didn't happen the exact way the mainstream narrative says is irrelevant. I don't have a strong feeling on it one way or another. It's not part of our platform. But I think that it's hypocritical to say that you can joke about some things and not joke about other things. And I also find it weird why the revisionist movement, which we're not a part of, it's not associated with America First, but why are they evil for questioning uh, historic events? Why is it wrong to question and go against the grain of the mainstream narrative of anything?" I said, if you don't go along with the orthodoxy of every single thing that the media pushes out, then you're considered evil. I said, why is it illegal to question the official numbers that are given to us about the Holocaust in 19 different European countries? I said, I think that's very hypocritical. I don't know if it happened the way they said. I wasn't there, but it's irrelevant to our movement, and I think it's kind of hypocritical to say that we can mock one group and not the other, and we could be ironic about something but not the other. So stuff like that. I think I was relatively very well spoken. I didn't use too many verbal crutches in my interview. And then for like the last 15 minutes of the interview, he asked me about Helen Keller, which I thought was just so dumb and ridiculous. He apparently saw the video that I made on Helen Keller, and he was asking me if I really believed that she didn't exist and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, I was like, hold on. I was like, I'm here for the Nick Fuentes movement. Helen Keller has nothing to do with AFPAC. That is something that I do actually truly believe, but it is separate. I don't want this to reflect negatively on the America First movement. And he was like, okay, we're not gonna say that this is part of the America First platform, but I want to know your actual opinion. And I told him, I said, well, this is in relation to everything else. If you question the mainstream narrative of something or go against the grain, you're considered evil. And I said, I didn't, and he was like, wait, so you really believe that Helen Keller didn't exist? And I said, no, that is not what I said at all. I said, I'm not saying that the person didn't exist. I'm saying that the narrative behind Helen Keller is nonsense. If you look at the World Health Organization, people with her diagnosis who go blind and deaf at such a young age, at 19 months, their prognosis is that they're never going to have a normal life. They're never going to be able to perceive reality, to write, to read. In fact, their diagnosis is that they're going to live a life of confusion and fear and have violent outbursts. And I said, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that this girl who could never read or write, could never see, could never hear, could never speak or anything, was able to become this social justice warrior who could fly planes and come up with these inspirational quotes. And she just became this radical socialist and had the same exact political alignments as Anne Sullivan, who was basically using Helen Keller as a puppet. And and that's assuming that Helen Keller wasn't just faking everything to begin with. So like I said, I think I gave very well spoken optical responses to a lot of the questions that he was asking me. Oh, he asked me about race mixing, and he said, you think it's okay that Nick is against race mixing? I said, yeah, I really don't care because I think most people want their children to look like them. Most people want their grandchildren to look like them. And you go back and look at Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali saying that black people want their children to be black, Asian people want their children to be Asian. Why is it evil for white people to want their children to be white? I said, there's nothing evil about wanting to continue your heritage and your ancestry and want your children to look like you. So that was literally, we went on for like 40 minutes. It was pretty crazy. So then I met what's her name, Lauren Widzetsky or something. I met John Miller. John Miller is super based. He knows way more than you would think he knows. What is that noise? Is that my dog? That's really annoying. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but it's very loud in my ears. So I met John Miller. He bought me a cranberry juice because I don't drink. But and they only had water and like mixers for alcoholic beverages, which is very weird because I don't know. I mean, it's not weird. I guess most people do drink, but whatever. I was hoping they had iced tea. They didn't have iced tea, but I got a cranberry juice, and John Miller paid for my cranberry juice, so that was cool. I met Michelle Malkin. Um, who else was there? I'm trying to think. I met Laura Loomer, who I am not a fan of. I mean, I'll tell you guys what I told her actually in person. I said that I think that we have very strong differences, and but if Nick trusts you enough to be here and you're actually willing to be here, then it is what it is. And also, um, I understand that she is a Zionist, and that definitely conflicts with our overall ideology. But she is also adamantly pro free speech for the most part, and also anti big tech and anti immigration. So I think that we can't purity spiral if somebody is in a position of influence or has the potential to gain some type of political power and they're willing to associate with us, then we need to use them as allies, honestly. We can't just be purity spiraling where a lot of people do that. Like, oh, well, they said something nice about Israel once. I mean, I know they might be pro-white and anti-immigration and agree with literally everything else I believe in, but, they like Israel and we can't have that. We need everybody to agree with exactly every single thing that we do, and I don't believe in that. But I did talk to her for about 10 minutes, and I interviewed her about, I said, look, I'm not trying to attack you. I know that Nick respects you enough to let you come here, but I do have a question if you don't mind. She was cool about it. She was like, yeah, what's up? I said, I watched an interview that you did with Styx and somebody else, and you were talking about BDS and how you would think that people involved with the BDS movement should be arrested, or it should be illegal to be part of the BDS movement for the people who boycott Israel. But you claim to be this free speech warrior. So that's where it ends. That's where free speech ends, when you criticize Israel, when you boycott Israel. And she said, no, the BDS movement is attached to Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations, and that's what I'm against. And that's the I'm paraphrasing. Obviously, I don't remember exactly word for word that she said, but that was basically her essential stance. And I said, um, well, two things then. I said, would you be okay with a movement that was specifically against Israel, that had nothing to do with BDS? And she said, yeah. She said, that's fine. You want to criticize Israel or boycott Israel. I just specifically have a problem with the Islamic terrorism aspect of BDS. And I said, you really think that BDS, everybody involved with BDS on these college campuses and stuff like that, are associated with Islamic terrorism? And she said, I think for the most part they are. They're partisan, pro-Palestinian people who are in support of Hezbollah and people that funded ISIS and all this stuff. And of course, I didn't go into like, oh well, actually Israel funded ISIS and armed ISIS, and actually Hezbollah supports Christians and protects them. I didn't go autistic mode on that. But I said, okay, but where does the line drawn? Because the word terrorism is just arbitrarily thrown around to everybody now, right? The Proud Boys are considered terrorists. Nick is considered a terrorist. 74 million Trump supporters are considered terrorists. Where is the line drawn? And she said, "Well, yeah, I've been labeled a terrorist, and I completely support the Proud Boys." And I was like, "Okay, so where's the line drawn? You're saying that you don't want to support something that supports terrorism, right? But if our government can just arbitrarily throw that term anywhere, where does the line draw between free speech, being pro free speech, but being against terrorism, but then being able to label anybody you don't agree with as terrorist? Do you understand what I'm saying?" And she said, "Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just against like the Islamic terrorist part of BDS." So it was definitely a cop out, but she did say that she didn't have a problem with protesting Israel, and also she's at an America First event, which has been explicitly anti-Israel and has explicitly talked about Jewish power. So I respect that. I respect that about her. I I know that she's a very controversial figure within the America First movement. A lot of people hate her completely, but I talked to her and she was very welcoming. She was very open to discussion. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna trust Nick that he knows what he's doing. But she was nice to me, and I guess that's pretty much all I really have to say about that. All right, now what else? Oh yeah, and then I already talked about that. That people purity spiraling. That she's because she's pro-Israel. That she can't even be around us. She's Jewish. Blah blah. It's people are just not serious people. All right. Then went to the ballroom, and there was, I think, like, I tried counting, but I probably miscounted. But I think there was around 56 tables that fit 8 people each. There was well over 500 people in attendance, in the main ballroom. It was absolutely huge. It was a very very professional event. There was security, there was VIP tables, there was waiters and waitresses. It definitely cost a lot of tens of thousands of dollars to put this event on. I guarantee it. And so I sat at a table with Grants Rance, the Canada First guy, my friend Red Pill Gaming. Who else? This guy Hicks that I met, who was a really cool guy, and some other kid. And we got into this very deep theological discussion about Catholicism and why Catholicism is the correct path instead of Orthodoxy or Protestantism. And it was like an hour long roundtable discussion, and it was so awesome. I wish that I would have recorded it because it would have been such great content. And of course, I destroyed everybody. All right, and I got one kid who was on the fence between Orthodoxy and Catholicism to, well, he says that me and other people helped him come to decide on Catholicism, which is very awesome. Anytime I hear that, it like makes me feel like what I'm doing is not pointless, because that happens so often where I feel like why am I even involved? Like there's so many people that are far better at this than I am. And then I'll get like messages telling me that like I inspired people to like have kids or become Catholic or join the America First movement, and it makes me feel like even if I'm only helping a few people, that it actually means that I'm doing something worthwhile. That's what I feel. So the fact that this kid said that I helped him decide on Catholicism makes me really like humbled and happy. So that was awesome. I really wish we would have recorded that conversation, because I think it would be very informative and stuff. So then the speeches happened, and they were phenomenal for the most part. So um, Vince started out, blew it out of the water. He gave the best speech of the night besides Nick. Nick always gives the best speech no matter what, pretty much. But um, Vince gave absolutely amazing speech. Then who spoke after Nick? John Miller, I believe. John Miller was funny. He didn't really speak that long, but he was very funny. He said something like, I know a lot of people are wondering what a normie black guy like me is doing on stage, but you need people like me to help bring you into the mainstream. You don't need somebody on stage who's just gonna name them. And everybody was like, "Oh," it was very, very funny. And then Michelle Malkin spoke. Michelle Malkin is absolutely phenomenal, and she really is helping the America First movement come into the mainstream. I'm almost positive she is the one who got Nick in touch with people like Steve King and Paul Gosar and stuff like that. And I told her face to face when I met her. I said, I really respect that you basically put everything on the line to support this movement, and it really shows that you have really good character. And she when she gives her speeches, I feel like what she does is that she like does her research into what all of our new lingo and slang is, and she makes sure that she puts every single thing that we say into her speeches. And it was really really well done. She had a great speech. And then then it was Steve King. And look, he was there. All right, that is the most important thing. He's a very prominent political individual with a lot of credibility, and he definitely helped legitimize the America First movement. And it is absolutely phenomenal that he was even there. That being said, he clearly does not understand or know the rhetoric of Nick Fuentes. And he said Judeo Christianity, which is a very big no no among our circles, like 7 times, which was a little bit cringe, I'm not going to lie. But I think it shows the mental capacity of everyone in the room, where we all know, on what's that level? I don't even know what you know what I'm trying to say. Like we're in the know. Like we're on the inside. We all know what we're all thinking. Basically, everybody's like looking at each other every time he said Judeo Christianity and being like, does he know? Does he know what conference he's at? And so we understood that, but we still have the mental fortitude, is that the word I'm looking for, where we were still able to be respectful, politely clap and stuff like that. But besides that, I'm trying to think of if he said anything else cringe. I'm pretty sure that was the worst part about it. But he did talk a lot about the use of language and how language is manipulated against us, and how white nationalism and white supremacy went from being used less than 200 times in the past 50 years, but now in the past 20 years it's been used over like 5 million times, something ridiculous like that, which was very true. And he ended off on a good note. But like I said, people need to stop with the purity spiraling, honestly. Like so many that's like the Wignats just they don't look at like what's amazing and what's awesome. The Wignat ideology now is just counter signaling America First. So that was like the main cope of the Wignats, is that, oh, he said Judeo Christianity. This dog is really like a demon. He said Judeo Christianity, and like that's unacceptable. Oh, look at this cucked movement. It's like, how about the fact that he's here, that he's openly endorsing or associating with the America First movement? Are you out of your mind? Like, and then same thing with Paul Gosar. Paul Gosar had a very good speech. It was like well mannered and well tempered. Um, and he said America First is inevitable. He said that, and you know. He did look a little nervous during Nick's speech. I'm told he looked nervous by some people that were very close to him. But besides that, what he has said afterwards really shows his character. That he's not apologetic. He doesn't have any regret. He sat down at lunch with Nick Fuentes, and it's not like he's disavowing the movement or anything like that. He's saying that these are people a growing movement with legitimate grievances, and we're not just going to push them away and not let them hear them speak. They obviously have real concerns, and it's just like the legitimizing factor of it that is where sitting elected officials are um, legitimizing our movement, and it's just getting perpetually bigger. All right. So then Nick spoke. Nick blew it out of the water. I thought that he was going to tone down his rhetoric because of King and Gosar being there, but he didn't at all. He completely blew it out of the water when he said that, like, this is a Christian nation that white people founded. The room went insane. And I was watching the replay footage of it, and they're very close to his face, and seeing like the stage and stuff like that, where obviously they can't pan around the room because people don't want to have their faces shown, they don't want to get doxxed, whatever the case may be. But the replay really does not do it justice. The roaring applause in that room for so many different things, but mainly when Vince, Michelle, and Nick were speaking, the thunderous applause was unlike anything you could even imagine. I've been to football games where there were tens of thousands of people that didn't have the energy and passion that this room had. Like, I'm not even joking. So that was absolutely awesome. Um, what else? Then there was this thing that I saw that people were saying, "Oh, there's a Star of David being shined on, I guess Paul Gosar or Steve King or something like that," and they thought that like somebody was like a troll or an FBI infiltrator shining a laser pointer that had the shape of the Star of David on it. It was literally the shape of the fucking stage lights. Like, this is how autistic people are. I first saw it and I was like, "What is this?" And then I looked at the lights and it's literally that shape, and it just like made it look like it was the Star of David, but it was like a hexagon or something like that. People are just looking for literally any little thing they can. It's also tiresome. This is why Wignats cannot be taken seriously. They should not even be engaged with. They're not smart enough to talk to us anymore. I consider them the same as libertarians now at this point, where it's like, all right, you had your libertarian phase, you had your Wignat phase. Wake up now, come home. But some people just get stuck in those phases and they can't be woken up. And if they're not willing to hear reason, which most of them aren't, because I spent so long trying to talk to all my Wignat friends about political strategy and rhetoric and the importance of language and stuff like that, they just do not understand it, I guess, and they're never going to, apparently. So there's not even a point in trying to talk to them anymore. So anyway, let's see, where was I at? So Star of David thing. Then after all the speeches were done, I got to talk to Nick again, and it was very cordial. I just said congratulations again. I shook his hand. We only talked for like 2 minutes or so, whatever, but it was cool, and I took a picture with him. Then I got more people came up to me. I got to meet. There was one person. I don't know if he wants me to say who it was, but there was this one person who we were mutuals on Twitter, and he came up to me and he was like Spexo, and then he told me what his Twitter handle was. I was like, oh crap! But this guy was 6'7". That's unacceptable. I'm 6'5". I specifically told people on Twitter that people that are taller than me are not allowed at AFPAC. So that's one thing they need to step up their security next year. Nobody's allowed to be taller than me. And I don't know what these people are thinking. That like when I'm king, if you're taller than me, you're getting your feet chopped off, or you're going to be shorter than me. Nobody is allowed to be taller than me. And this guy was 2 inches taller than me. Besides him, I was the tallest person in the entire venue. Every single picture, I am physically dominating everywhere, everyone, like I do anywhere I go, except for this kid. This kid was 6'7". And that's not okay. Good guy, good guy. Really, we got along very well. Um, he's not allowed to be taller than me. Anyway, then I talked to Nick's dad. That was a crazy experience because this guy was so nice and just like it was. I asked him. I said, "How are you feeling about this? Like look what your son has accomplished." And he said that he's overwhelmed, but he understands how great it is for Nick, but he fears for Nick's safety, you know, and he compared Nick to an artist. He said, no, because yeah, he compared Nick to an artist, but it was after I told him. I said, your son is a hero to thousands of young people. Nobody has accomplished what Nick has accomplished in modern history in such a short period of time. I said, and your son easily could have been in Charlie Kirk's position doing the typical establishment conservative thing and doing it way better than Charlie Kirk ever could because Nick is far smarter than Charlie Kirk. And his dad said, you're absolutely right. He said he could have been doing what Charlie Kirk has done easily, but he's like an artist that the best artists don't do it for money or fame. They do it just to do it because they can and because they're passionate about it, and it's so true. And I was like, how was it trying to get him like to go to sleep on time as a kid? Was it always a debate and stuff? And he thought that was pretty funny. Um, but yeah, his meeting his dad was absolutely awesome. I'm trying to think of what else he said. He said something else that was funny, but I can't really think of it right now. But yeah, that was a really cool experience. Then we went to an after party um, with some people, which was cool because I got to talk to this one Italian kid. Um, I don't know if I want to say his first name. I don't think he wants me to say that, but we got along really well, and we spoke for like 2 hours about very esoteric things that really don't necessarily have to do with AFPAC or whatever. But that was really cool, just meeting everybody and talking to people who are on the same level as you. It's such a refreshing feeling. It is. There's nothing like it. It's absolutely insane. And but the after oh, and then Vince came to the after party, which was cool. There was this one person who part of me really wants to start an internet drama, but now that I'm off of Twitter, there's really no point. And I really do want to name him and call him out and like start a war with this guy because I was on the fence with how I felt about him. But now, after meeting him in person and seeing this type of stuff that he was doing, I absolutely cannot stand him. And I think that he is nothing but a liability to the movement of America First. And he was at this after party. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say his name. I'm sure that if you were there or if you have talked to me privately, you know who I'm talking about. But this kid was an absolute retard. He, I don't even want to say, he was doing very unoptical things while having the America First flag like in the background of what he was doing. And it was just not a good look. And we had to tell him to stop. Basically, we had to get the owner of the house to like tell him like, you need to cut it out, you need to calm down. But that was like really the only hiccup. Yeah, all right, yeah, that was pretty much the only hiccup of the entire time. Then Vince came to the house. That was cool. Everybody was talking to him and stuff like that. And then the next day, that was it. Me and Kyle went out to eat, and we went home. And that was pretty much the entire event. I'm pretty sure I talked about everything that happened, but I want to give like a little bit of a review about it now. It really was just the culmination of 4 years of hard work and dedication and consistency from Nick Fuentes. When Donald Trump became president and all of these dissident movements like the alt-right and all these people started becoming more popular and gaining more prominence, one by one they seemed to just fall by the wayside, except for Nick Fuentes, who has been here since the beginning, since 2017, and he had his own way of doing things, his own way of going, yo, no, sorry, this is, stop. Hold on, come here. Oh, come here. All right, yeah. Okay, so, all right, this is a bad idea. So he had his own way of doing things since 2017 with the optics, no e-girls, dressing properly, wearing suits, being able to articulate dissident talking points in an easily digestible, easily palatable way for normal people to be attracted to. And this was his strategy from the beginning. Meanwhile, all these other people were obsessing about Jews and just talking about unrealistic, immoral things like genocide and all of this nonsensical buffoonishness that was never with Nick, that Nick never really engaged with. And not only that, Nick is young and able to connect to a younger audience using their humor and irony and being able to relate to them through gaming and different types of memes and stuff like that. And it's something he has something very special, a very special talent, and his oratory abilities and his ability to articulate points is just I've never seen anything like it in my life. And this is just the culmination of everything. And Wignats and Patrick Casey are just eternally blown out. What really can they say? What do they say now about Nick Fuentes? What do Wignats say about sorry? What do Wignats say about Nick Fuentes right now? Booger eater, optics cuck. What else? That he's a closeted homosexual. All of this nonsense. Cat boy. All of this stuff that is completely irrelevant or misconstrued to portray something that it's not. And meanwhile, they do nothing. They do absolutely nothing but talk on Telegram about who's whiter, who's a Fed, talk about Jews nonstop at an autistic, obsessive level, and the rest of the time they're just counter signaling America First and Nick Fuentes. Meanwhile, Nick Fuentes is just perpetually gaining popularity every single day. On election day, he got 50,000 live viewers. That is absolutely insane. In 4 years, he has changed the conservative discourse of TPUSA. He is able to get hundreds, if not thousands, of young people generally to show up to any state at a moment's notice. He is forever in the congressional archives because of the impeachment trial, and it just keeps getting better and better in such a short period of time. And if you see the energy and the passion in the room, people who are generally interested in this stuff because they really truly care about our country, about our nation, and what's becoming of it, and they want to desperately change it. They're not doing it for money, they're not doing it for clout. It's because they really believe in this movement. And you can't get that at CPAC. You can't get that with TPUSA or Young Americans for Liberty or any of these other establishment supported movements because they don't really care. This is a grassroots movement that doesn't have billionaires funding it. And what are you guys going to say anymore? There's nothing you can say. You just cope and seethe about how successful America First has become. Meanwhile, you do nothing. You have accomplished nothing. You can't even admit that your strategy does not work. You don't have strategy. You don't have the mental capacity to comprehend political rhetoric or political strategy. You just seethe and cope and do circle jerks over Jews and who's whiter. It is getting you absolutely nowhere, and you can't admit that because you don't have the maturity to, I guess. I don't really know. We have elected officials legitimizing our movement. And people want to say, like, oh, it's not even a dissident movement. If you're not talking about Jews, it's not a dissident movement. And it's like, he does. It is a pro-white, pro-Christian movement that has explicitly talked about Jewish power, is explicitly anti-Israel or anti-foreign aid to all foreign countries. It's explicitly anti-needless wars, anti-big tech. It wants to reestablish a virtuous Christian nation with traditional values. It's anti-LGBT. It basically is what how can you not be more dissident? Like, I don't understand. Like, how is it not a dissident? Because we're not self-emulating ourselves and talking about genocide and all this nonsensical stuff like children. Like, you have nothing to say, honestly. And that's why I don't even engage with Wignets anymore. Because when I first got red pilled, not when I first got red pilled, I should say, when I first started getting more into Nick Fuentes, after I got over my silly accelerationist phase, when I first got into Nick Fuentes, and I started really understanding optics, because I was like a lot of other people, like, oh, optics cuck, you're just gonna hide your true feelings under layers of irony, and you're not gonna say how you really feel, because you want the left to like you, or blah blah blah. And that's not what optics is at all. I've explained this multiple times. Optics is about articulating dissident viewpoints in a way that's easily accessible to normal people. It's not about pandering to the left's moral framework. It's about presenting your views. That's what it is. It's presentation. It's being clean cut, dressed well, speaking well, articulating points that make sense to normal people that aren't online autists like us, right? And Wignats cannot fathom this concept. They don't understand the importance of it, of the importance of language and how it's used. And when I first learned all this, I tried my hardest to talk to my Wignat friends about what they were doing, about that what you're doing is not working, it's not going to get anywhere. And they will say things like, oh, what is Nick doing? Oh, he hosts a little show and he's a grifter and he gets donations and stuff. And it's like, look at us now. Look at us now in only 4 years. Okay? Paul Gosar, a sitting representative, is speaking at our conference. Are you out of your mind? Like, it's just, they really cannot say anything. And it is only the beginning. I am so excited for the future because if you look at any other political movement or anything like that, no, I can't think of anything that has accomplished what Nick has accomplished in such a short period of time. And the movement is really still only in its infancy. And I am so excited for the future now, and this is like such a white pilling event. And really, I think the foundation has to be with Christ, because a lot of Wignats are pagans or secular or atheist, or they are just racial fetishists who idolize race over God, instead of understanding that race is important, but God must come first. And without God, without Christ as the foundation of your movement, you're not going to accomplish or get anywhere. You're going to become nihilistic. You're going to have feelings of purposelessness and insignificance, and basically getting that black pill mentality where, oh, there is no political solution, there is no blah blah blah. And you know what, maybe there isn't a political solution, um, but that's the only solution if there is going to be one. And if there is going to be a political solution, it's going to be through the America First movement with Nicholas J. Fuentes. And all of these grifters and normicons that are now trying to co-opt or appropriate America First, meanwhile they're just a continuation of the establishment neocon type conservative that we've seen for the last 60 years. We can't allow that to happen, and we have to continue calling them out. Just because they use the term America First doesn't mean anything. Just because they're endorsed by Donald Trump doesn't mean anything. America First is Nicholas J. Fuentes' movement, and without him, there is no America First, right? And without being anti-big tech, without being anti-immigration, without understanding that America is not liberty and freedom and abstract ideas and its constitution. That's not what America is. America is its nation. America is its people. America is its traditions, its culture, its shared ancestry. America is meant to be largely a pan-European Christian country. The majority of people are supposed to be pan-European and Christian. That's what it was for 200 years until 1965 because of the Hart-Celler Act, but we don't have to get into that. And that's not saying that there aren't non-white, non-Christian allies. I stayed with a Jewish kid, right? Which I'm getting a lot of flack for that, believe me. But Kyle Frank is a very big asset to the movement. He understands what America is and what is best for America. And that's ultimately what we want. We want what's best for America, and we actually believe that every race and every country should be like that. It should be doing what's best for them. And that doesn't mean we don't want any black people or any minorities or anything like that. We understand that we're pretty much going to be a multiracial society, but we can't have a multiracial society unless everybody is treated with respect and dignity. And obviously, in this new caste system that the elite has created, white people are at the bottom of that caste system, and it's unacceptable. So now I'm just ranting and probably sound retarded after I felt like I was doing good for the first couple of minutes of this video, and then I just kind of went off the rails. But that was basically my experience and basically my review and analysis of AFPAC. Overall, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I can't wait for next year. I can't wait for other events. I hope that Nick starts putting on more events. But overall, that is my experience at AFPAC 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm probably going to do another one that's going to be in a similar vein with Jordan B. Peterson, with Jordan B. videos coming up shortly. So hope you enjoyed this. Praise Christ, have babies, don't be a degenerate, and stay optical. That was really cringe that I said that, but okay. But not the optical part, but praise Jesus, have babies, do that stuff.